live and in person on FM Oregon Realtors. I'm here with my jazzy co-host, Jenny Pikula, Oregon Realtors CEO. I am president-elect of the Oregon Realtors, Drew Coleman, and thank you guys for joining us today.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Missives with Drew and Jenny. It's going to be our regular talk show, and maybe it will carry over once we get back into our sense of normalcy. But today we are very fortunate to have some really cool realtors across the country share with you what they're doing to maintain success and keep moving forward in this climate. And we have a short period of time, so without further ado, I'm going to introduce the first guest. And pardon me, I need my glasses.
Oh my gosh.
I know. See, it's the difference between young, old. All right. First up is Charlie Oppler. Charlie is a realtor from Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. He is the 2020 president-elect of the National Association of Realtors. He is the COO of Prominent Properties, Sotheby's International Realty. Charlie has served on NAR's board of directors numerous times, beginning in 2003. He's chaired more committees at NAR than I can name, and it would take too long. He's been NAR's vice president for Region 2, representing New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania. Charlie was the president of the New Jersey Association of Realtors in 2004. At the local level, Charlie is a member of the Eastern Bergen County Board of Realtors. In 1997, they named him the Realtor of the Year. Charlie is a lifelong resident of New Jersey and is actively involved in this community. Charlie and his wife, Jerry, have 4 children. Charlie, welcome to the show this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
I don't know if you can hear Drew's lead-in music for you, Charlie, but it's from The Sopranos.
I did notice that. It wasn't Springsteen or Bon Jovi, but it was a good attempt, Drew.
Yeah, sorry about that, Charlie.
That's okay. I at least knew the tune. Nobody else did.
Yeah, there you go. Jenny's voice, we wanted to drown it out as much as we could. So you and the rest of the exec committee at NAR, I don't think that you were expecting anything like this going into this year. I know you guys travel like crazy and log about 100,000 frequent flyer miles a month, but what have you guys been doing? What has the discussion been? What have you been doing for all the 1.4 million members over the last few weeks?
I think, well, thank you for having me this morning, Drew. And I think this is a great way to communicate with everybody in Oregon. And certainly I applaud your efforts and Jenny's efforts. I think the biggest thing that we've learned through all of this is whether it's a Zoom conference or a conference call, you're still able to do what's necessary to keep the ball moving forward. And I can tell you that our advocacy team, Shannon McGann, Bill Malkasian, Joe Ventrone from the regulatory side, I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned is how effective we've been able to communicate with our legislators and the key congressional members that we need to have access to get the CARES Act, the Stimulus 3 package, to include independent contractors. If we were to have a meeting in person, we wouldn't get half as much done as we've done virtually, because we have probably an hour, 2-hour call either every day, every other day, on a national and federal level, just like you're all doing in your respective states, Oregon as well, trying to find out certain things. So I think legislatively and on the advocacy side that we've been able to be just as effective, even from a distance, if you will.
So what's coming next from the advocacy? I mean, what's happening? I know it's a daily, things are changing on a daily basis. Is there any brief update you can provide our attendees today on what they can expect coming from Washington, D.C. and at that level on the federal side?
I think the next phase, if you will be Stimulus 4. And I think the focus is going to be on small business, just to make sure that everybody that's applied for the PPP, the protection, the protection plan, really is important, because you're talking about billions and trillions of dollars that not every small business through their bank has been able to be funded. So I think that's what you're going to see next. Unfortunately, with the states being able to handle the unemployment claims, which are just skyrocketed beyond what anybody ever imagined would be, is also going to be looked at from a standpoint of how do we make this an online process instead of actually standing online, as many have had to do to pick up an application in certain states. So I think that's our next step, is to see how we can make sure that the process is more effective going forward so everybody can participate and hopefully keep their businesses going forward, even though certain areas in the country have been hit harder than others. As you guys know, I'm in New Jersey. New York and New Jersey are the two leading states in if you want to call it leading, with the most COVID-19 cases. In my situation, we've got over 51,000 cases, almost 2,000 deaths, and we don't even have enough testing yet. So when you talk about the peak and some of the resulting effects, I don't think we've seen anywhere close to where it's going to be yet.
So one quick note, and as we're all exploring this new virtual environment world, we've had so many attendees on this that Zoom has overloaded us and won't let more people in. So just let your friends know we are streaming live on YouTube. We got hundreds and hundreds, I think something like 500 realtors across the state that wanted to hear from Charlie and Tommy and Jen and Lori. So
And Bill.
And Bill. I can't see Bill, but there he is. So just if any of your friends are saying, hey, I can't get in, tell them to go to the Oregon Realtors YouTube channel. You know, we normally would have our whole crew, but it's the skeleton crew with Jenny, and I'm running tech and everything else. So Charlie, I mean, what if a member wants a quick and dirty summary of all the work that you guys have been doing? Is there a place they can go online or some sort of a resource for them?
Absolutely. If you go to nar.realtor /coronavirus, you'll get all the forms, you get everything, all your FAQs answered. And at the same time, they can go to the same site, nar.realtor /right tools right now, and take advantage of some incredible opportunities, either to get some additional educational certifications, take their C2EX, or learn more about the financial wellness program. So there's a lot that the agents can be doing to take advantage of some of the programs available. But you can also get your questions answered about unemployment checks and how to become eligible for that, and find out also how to protect your business.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw that the pricing strategy advisor and ePro designations were free, and that it was half off at home with diversity, and a ton of other tools that Charlie and the crew put up there. So that's awesome.
Yeah, when we hear from the rest of the panelists, I'll be interested to hear what's happening in your states with respect to the pandemic unemployment assistance. I know talking with my peers across the country, every state seems to be, I will use the term cluster, but when it comes to the unemployment, the PUA, it's not up and running here in Oregon. I don't know how it is in the rest of your states, but I'll look forward to hearing that. So Charlie, before we hear from the rest of the panelists, I'm glad you brought up the Right Tools Right Now program, because everybody knows how hard you're working, and the team's working on advocacy and helping with loan programs. But NAR itself, with respect to programming, I think it's really notable that our members are aware of how much they're being provided in this crisis that normally might cost them some money, and they really should take advantage of everything in that Right Tools Right Now. Do you know how the telemedicine program is working since it was launched? How many members?
The telemed program, we have over 3,000 members who have already signed up for it. The telemed program really is to augment if you're not on Medicare or you don't have insurance, you're able to contact and get a consultation and basically a doctor's visit online. If you're not feeling well, everybody's urged not to go to the hospitals because of the emergency rooms and the crisis center and the critical care. So the telemed program was something that we had the opportunity to participate in. And again, it's a member benefit that we never, you know, when you get involved in leadership, you know, the only thing that's certain is uncertainty, but this is a new level. This is not anything that anybody ever imagined in their lifetime would be something that you'd have to deal with. But like anything else, you take it one component at a time to make sure that you're efficient at how do you have to handle the situation. And President Vince Malta has been just spectacular in terms of his leadership. And we've had many conference calls, and he and I speak at ungodly hours just to say, okay, what else can we do for the members? And I think you're all going to be blown away by the mid-year virtual conference on how many different things we're going to be able to do. It may take us a couple extra days because no one's going to sit at a screen and watch for 8 hours like you run from meeting to meeting. But you'll see the breakdown over a 2-week period that I think between committee meetings, caucuses, and everything else, it's just going to be something that maybe we'll all learn going forward how to do business a little differently.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome because I'm imagining that the attendance for the virtual meeting is going to skyrocket from members that have never been to an NAR annual or mid-year. Yesterday, we had our board of directors meeting, and we have 123 directors at live meetings. We've never had more than 90 ever show up. Yesterday, we had 115. And while we had some tech difficulties, it was still a great introduction to what we can do with Zoom and other video conferences.
We did the budget review a couple of weeks ago. We had 150 people in a 5-hour conference, and then finance the following day did the same thing. And I can also just tell you from the Facebook Live session on Wednesday, we had over 20,000 members be able to listen and participate with questions effectively, that it went through, in essence, a moderator that was able to forward the questions to Vince so that he could direct it to a staff member, or as you saw, he answered a couple questions himself. So we expect that if we can do that for 20,000 members, when we go to a board of directors of over 1,000 and have some general sessions of 2,000-3,000 people, that we will be able to communicate effectively and seamlessly. So we're excited about that.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Drew?
That's awesome. No, thank you. I just can't imagine the hours and the work you guys are putting in right now, you and Vince and John and Leslie and everybody else. So thank you, Charlie. I know we really appreciate it. I mean, to me, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, the fact that you guys were able to successfully lobby the legislature and get some relief for self-employed individuals as part of the CARES package, in addition to people who've been playing in unemployment, is huge. You know, tens of thousands of dollars are going in the pockets of real people that are out there and can't work right now. Just shows you the value of our member dollars and our PAC contributions. So thank you. Absolutely.
Never been more important.
That's right. So, and thank you. People have been mentioning loud pings. Of course, since we went overloaded on Zoom, everyone's texting me they can't get on. So that was my computer dinging. So apologies as we do this in a live format, but I've figured out how to turn that off. If we can only figure out how to turn Bill Lublin off once we get him started talking here in a minute, that'll be another win. But I'm going to go ahead and we are going to bring in the rest of our panelists here. And I'm going to go to, hopefully what works is a gallery view. So let's go ahead and introduce the rest of our folks. Jenny, do you want to go ahead and introduce Bill?
Well, I have the pleasure of introducing my good friend, Bill Lublin. Bill Lublin is CEO of Century 21 Advantage Gold, Pennsylvania's largest Century 21 firm. Bill literally wrote the book about technology and social media for Realtors as the lead author of the 2010 and 2015 rewrites of ePro, which is the technology certification of NAR. Bill is a working realtor with a love of technology. He created NAR's Tech Edge event. He's the vice chair of NAR's Federal Technology Policy Committee, a member of NAR's board of directors, and serves as a director for both Bright MLS and CR MLS, the two largest MLSs in the US. Bill's accolades go on, but that's all you get, Bill. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to see you guys. You're a little furry, you're a little fuzzy, but still beautiful and handsome as ever.
Thank you, Bill. You're too kind. You're kind. So I'm going to talk about Tommy Choi, and Tommy joins us from Chicago, Illinois, with a bunch of colorful artwork behind him. Tommy co-founded the Weinberg Choi residential team in 2007, and his business partner Josh Weinberg and he have celebrated opening their own Keller Williams Market Center in January of 2017. He was recognized as the most profitable market center launch since 2013 when they launched that. They've sold over 900 properties in the last few years, over 400 million in sales volume, consistently top 10 teams in Chicago, which is not a small little town if anyone's keeping track, and top 1% of Chicago Realtors. And I know Tommy served as the 135th president of the Chicago Association of Realtors and as their first Korean American president in the association's 135-year history. And many of us know Tommy through his great work and being very involved at the YPN level on the advisory board. And I think he and Charlie are going to be working closely together next year. So Tommy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
I've seen you on a lot of these calls this week, Tommy. Your camera is getting some good use.
You know what? It's the new norm. You know, hopefully all my frozen pizza consumption isn't showing up on the screen right now.
You look great. You look phenomenal.
All right, good. Thank you.
Perfect. And also joining us from a state that's really been getting a lot of attention right now is my friend Jen Vucetic. Jen is the New York State Association of Realtors Secretary Treasurer. She's co-owner and broker at Exit Realty Empire Associates in Clifton Park. She's been a realtor for a long 14 years. As a friend of mine says, you're not in real estate for 14 years. You've been in real estate for 1 year 14 times, because every year is different, including this one. She was also named Greater Capital Association of Realtor of the Year in 2016. She was New York State Women's Council of Realtors President in 2017. She's one of 18 realtors across the country who's in the National Association of Realtors Leadership Academy for 2020. The list goes on and on. She is they call her the Queen of New York. Jen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And last but by no means least is your Oregon Association of Realtors President, Palermo. Lori is the principal broker and co-owner of Palermo Real Estate, located in beautiful Springfield, Oregon, not to be confused with the city across the river that houses the University of Oregon. She's lived in Springfield most of her life. She is a diehard Springfield Millers fan, attends every high school basketball and football game in her town. It is like a true Friday Night Lights down there. Lori's active in the community, serving on the Springfield Board of Realtors, Board of Directors since 1994. She served as president of her local board, like many of you, more than once, several times, currently serving as principal broker director. Lori was honored as the Springfield Board of Realtors Realtor of the Year in 1999 and 2013, and WCR Businesswoman of the Year in 2005. Welcome, Lori.
Thank you.
All right. We have all of our panelists introduced and ready to go. So Tommy, let's start with you. What is the status of real estate in Chicago and Illinois in general?
Yeah, great question. So in Illinois, we have been in a shelter in place since March 21st. And it was supposed to go through April 7th. And we all know nationally with what's going on, that's not the case anymore. And we are now officially extended through April 30th. So, that being said, though, realtors started working from home as many corporations in the city of Chicago here did earlier in that week, the week of the 9th. So, we've been home for about a month now. Real estate was deemed essential business in the state of Illinois. So we are still seeing transactions close and closings happen, moves happening. That being said, as an association locally in Chicago, we've taken the responsibility of making sure that face-to-face activities are very limited. And so no open houses, very limited amount of showings, pivoting to a virtual showing world. So it's been good. For the most part, people have been adapting. I mean, we're still, while the numbers aren't at pace of what we're used to seeing, real estate hasn't halted. it's just slowed down a little bit. And so we're seeing consistently 300 new listings hit the market week over week. We're consistently seeing about 200 to 250 properties go under contract. So while those aren't anywhere near the numbers we're used to seeing, it's a lot better than zero. So we're grateful for that, and we're continuing to push forward and adapt.
Thank you.
Wow, that's awesome. Yep. It's amazing the spirit and the innovative nature of realtors that's coming through. You know, they just pivot and keep on trucking. And speaking of a guy who can take a licking and keep on ticking, Bill, I see you, it looks like you, did you send away for like a plaque kit and you put all those on the wall, or what happened here?
I actually have a couple of boxes that don't fit on that wall. This is actually a virtual background. This is my real-time office at our corporate center.
Gotcha.
Feel like I'm at work.
There you go. I love it. Well, you are always at work. I mean, you're the guy who wrote the ePro designation, which many of our members will be taking for free, thanks to Charlie and Vince and their work. What's going on in your home state of Pennsylvania right now?
So we were declared in a state of emergency on March 6th, and on March 19th, the governor ordered the closure of all non-essential businesses, and we have been deemed in Pennsylvania non-essential, though federally and in many other states, as you know, we are. Our title company was closed on the 19th and allowed to reopen on the 21st. So we are doing parking lot or drive-by closings, whatever you want to call them, with really limited contact. We had, during that 6th to 19th period, put protocols in place for our agents to work with sellers and buyers using social distancing, disinfectants. You know, we set up company-wide protocols, and then they changed the rules on us. So we have no contact in Pennsylvania. In New Jersey, where we also have an office, we're allowed to have one-on-one showings or with an immediate family member, but limited groups. So we're selling homes using virtual showings. I mean, our business has slowed down much more than I'm hearing Tommy's has in Chicago, because we're not allowed to have any showings, but we're doing virtual showings. Bright actually 2 days ago opened up virtual open houses as a feature for the MLS in our marketplace. And our agents are being creative. I mean, we have a really strong tech stack as a company, but like every other real estate company, you have that 20 or 30% of the people that use every tool, and then 70% that use something. Now we're holding 10 to 14 training programs every week. Agents that were slow to adopt certain of the tech offerings we have are doing it. So in that respect, it's being good for our agents. But financially, it's going to be a challenge for some smaller brokerages or brokerages without some kind of reserves, even as they're waiting for the relief that NAR was able to get for them through the CARES package. And our state, Jenny, can't figure out unemployment either. I think they have 1099 people at the end of a long queue, and they sort of feel like they got to take care. Like, I guess it's like going to your neighborhood butcher. They want to take care of their regular customers first, and the 1099 people are like the new guys. So we don't even have the ability to apply online yet.
Same here. Yeah, it was open today, but nope, it said coming soon was the latest on the list of the PUA applications, which I thought was sort of ironic, right? So coming soon. Hey, Lori, what's happening here in Oregon? Tell your peers how we're doing.
Well, we're doing great. And a question I'm often asked is, are we essential services? The short answer is yes, of course we're essential, because that's who we are, right? On March 23rd, Governor Brown issued her Stay Lives order. And really, it was a lot less restrictive than what I thought it would be. The order does lay out significant restrictions on individuals and on business activity here in Oregon. And while the order doesn't actually show offices or activity at large, it does include specific guidance for businesses that remain open. Some real estate business may choose to shut down completely, shut down their operations out of an abundance of caution. Others may choose to stay open, which is allowed. If offices do stay open, however, there are stringent rules for doing so.
Lori, we got a little time.
I'm seeing, of course, nobody houses.
Well, Lori, and there's the beauty of live television, people. Anything can happen. Lori, we've caught most of what you're saying, and you've been advocating so hard here at the state level for all of us, and kind of letting us know. And I know you've been in constant communication with Jenny, with the governor's office and the legislature and everything else. Let's pop it over to New York State, which seems to be, sadly, again, ground zero for this tough time. Jen, what's going on in the state of New York?
Yeah, so it has been very difficult here. If you rank the countries with the most deaths, New York State would come in 7th. We just announced today that there was 7,000 deaths. The governor was on earlier, and he said that we are flattening the curve. 19 days ago, we were put on a pause, as he likes to call it. And basically, at that time, we were not essential. And a lot of realtors had deals in the pipeline. We didn't know how we were going to get these to close. A lot of closings did go off with only the buyer there. At that time, we were all told to stay home. It was an executive order. And if you disobeyed the executive order, there was a $2,000 fine, possible suspension of or loss of your real estate license. And then you could even face criminal charges. So everyone was staying home. We were in constant contact with the governor's office. The department that we were working with was ESD, which is Empire State Development. And they really, it was every profession was calling them, and everyone who's licensed was calling them. And we've never been through something like this. So we were all, learning at the same time. We actually want to mention that we have social distancing in place. And if you've seen any pictures of New York City, the weather had gotten nice. Even by me, there were parks that were closed because there were too many people out hiking on trails, because 19 days, you get a little cabin fever. And then you have a lot of people who are in, 900 square foot apartments in the city. So people were just getting out, and there was a $1,000 fine if you weren't obeying the social distancing rule. He doubled it yesterday. It is now a $2,000 fine. He is telling everyone to stay home. On April 1st, we received notice that we were deemed essential. That was met with some people were happy about it, but the majority were not. There was just too many people getting sick. There was too many deaths for us to go out and conduct business as usual. And then they did an about face on April 2nd and said, okay, no more person-to-person contact. So we are selling houses virtually. You have appraisers who were approved to do drive-by appraisals. But then you have the home inspectors. They too were deemed not essential. And then with the reversal on April 1st, home inspections are now essential, and they can be done. Once again, no person-to-person contact. So someone would have to open the door. The home inspector would go in, do the inspection, and then provide a report afterwards. Some houses are being bought virtually, sight unseen. The number of home sales that are actually happening are down, and a lot of people are just waiting this out and not putting their home on the market, and they just don't want people coming in their homes for any reason. And we're hoping that this does, end soon. And I believe our market will be very strong once this passes. Our association has been amazing. in working with the governor's office. We have a legal hotline. We've always had that, but the calls to that have been exponential. And we have a COVID update on our New York State Association of Realtors site that has a FAQ. So all the questions that were coming in were pretty much the same questions. So that is updated regularly. And as things come from the ESD, it is also updated. We send out an email to the memberships with a flash update, letting them know that something was changed. And we also have a lot of Zooms, pretty much zoomed out, but we do on Tuesdays updating all the AEs and presidents from across the state. And then we just started on Thursdays a Zoom just for presidents of the associations from across the state, just to see where they're at and, you know, see how they're handling it and, you know, what innovation is coming out of their area.
Oh.
So a lot going on, a lot of figuring it out as we go, but the lines of communication have been really wonderful and everyone's done a great job. So I thank you for having me here.
Well, that's awesome. Well, you guys have, I mean, that, like you said, you've had to work harder because it's been such a location that's needed so much attention, and we're so thankful that you and your other state and our national realtor leadership have been so active there.
Yeah, we've been doing the same thing here in Oregon, but I do have to say, I want to thank your CEO, Duncan. You guys have put out a lot of amazing information that we have stole. Yeah. Some of the FAQs, we're opening a COVID resource hotline next week here for our members. We have a legal hotline too, but we don't want to inundate that with, I mean, if people still have transactional questions, we want those to get answered. So we're giving them a separate hotline to call.
The other thing that I didn't mention that we have a tech hotline, and with all the people working from home, you take for granted, and that tech hotline is also getting a workout. So I'm so thankful that we had that to offer our members who may have not had a home office set up, and just, you know, a lot of people who have tech questions come up. So that has been a huge asset to our membership as well.
Jenny, do you want to man a tech hotline for Oregon Realtors?
Yeah, well, we're considering resurrecting the tech helpline for the same situation. So Charlie, down in New Jersey, you're all in the same region, and Phil mentioned that Jersey, I sound like a West Coaster, that Jersey's letting one-on-one showings. So how's that working for you guys? What's going on in your area?
Well, even though we've been deemed an essential business and we're able to close properties, we have the same challenges with the notaries and the buyers and sellers attending a closing. So we've had a lot of issues as well, but we've had a lot more of an opportunity to close transactions than around the country. The irony here is, you know, where Jen is located and where I'm located, I'm closer to New York City, which has really affected us in the suburbs, because you have many workers that had worked in New York City that no longer would commute because they had to stay at home mandate. We still are allowed to do one-on-one showings. We've told our company, and we've got about 700 agents, that we would prefer them not to show property. But we all know the life and the mindset of independent contractors. You know, give them a little opportunity and they're going to run out there and maybe not take every precaution. We bought gloves for all the offices. So we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. We could not obtain masks for each of the offices because I was concerned, even though we closed our company, I believe it was the 9th or 10th of March, because of all the uncertainty that was around here. We just gave all of our employees the opportunity to work at home. And then within a day or two, we said, you know, it's no longer an opportunity. We did a survey through our own IT department to make sure everybody could work at home. There was only one person that could not. So we went out, purchased a laptop for her. So she could work at home. She does some of our marketing. And we've basically been a virtual company. Thankfully, we've been able to close a lot of what was under contract, but the next 3 or 4 months, which would have been probably an area where we would have set records for our company based on the first 2 months. I have no idea what it looks like. We now have a stay at home until May 7th. And there are other parts of the country that I think that's part of where Bill had said earlier that they're not sure when Philadelphia is going to start to be the next hotspot. Virginia, as a matter of fact, has stay at home until June 10th already. So there are different parts in the country that have not seen the true effect of what's going on here. But New Jersey we're hurting from the amount of cases that we have. Even small towns have 90 and 100 cases out of a town of 10,000 people. So you don't know who's being affected and who's not being affected.
That's tough. Yeah, our thoughts and prayers are to all those people, especially, I mean, everywhere around the country this is affecting, but New Jersey, New York, some of those other spots, it's been very tough. Well, let's open it up. Hopefully we're on kind of a gallery view now. Anyone who is watching this, if you want to type in a question you have for any of our 5 esteemed panelists, please do. A couple of you have told us that Jenny needs to speak up, which usually is not a problem, but for right now, we will make sure that she yells when she has her questions. I see a question right now. You know, people want more where to apply if your bank doesn't administer SBA PPP and the applicability of the PPP for realtors. How does it apply to self-employed people versus, you know, how does it apply to an agent, a team, employees of teams, et cetera? So someone want to take a venture at that one? Tommy, I know you got a team, and Bill, you're running a company. How have you guys worked on that?
Bill?
Well, I can tell you, we chose to go to banks where our entities did business to see whether they were SBA lenders. But if not, I would choose a preferred SBA lender as opposed to just an SBA lender in general. But they may ask you for some kind of banking relationship. And if they do, open a checking account, and that's probably going to be fine. In terms of applicability, not being anybody's accountant or attorney, I think it's any entity that pays salaries.
Yeah.
Because
that's correct, Bill.
Tommy, I'm sorry.
I think Charlie was agreeing with you.
You're correct. It's a salary. It's a payment protection plan based on salaries, not on independent contractors.
So one thing, you know, I'll echo what Bill said. You know, just my perspective and my experience applying last week is, you know, I went with where we had our business banking relationship. And I think a lot of people, you know, to Bill's butcher's analogy, I think that's the case with a lot of these banks because, you know, I bank with Chase and they had over 40,000 applicants last week per what my banker had told me. So I know that that's a great place to start. I'm seeing other agents and colleagues of mine from across the country that have also started with a small local bank where you have a relationship. I think that's the biggest piece. And I'd say some things, for as much lack of clarity there was in the process, once I got into the process, it was very clear and very simple. And the other side of it was the banker was willing to work with us on this. I'd say to prep for things that we were needed of was a W-3, your most recent business tax return, your 941 statements from last year quarterly. And if you're using a payroll company, some sort of summary sheet that will support what your staff's salaries are and things that you're asking for. So that was really helpful once we got that list to prepare and stay ahead. And I think that's a good way for any Oregon member that's listening, that's preparing for this, have those documents ready and upfront, ready to go.
Yeah, and just for all of the Oregon listeners, next week I will be hosting a webinar with the CEO for the Oregon Bankers Association that is going to provide an update on everything that's happening here. and the same things that some of our panelists are talking about. I mean, as you can imagine, I spoke with her on the day it was launched, and her members, it was crazy for the banks. They just were not prepared. None of them, when Wells Fargo shuts down applications because the system's an overload, you know, it's been difficult for the banks. So I'll look forward to providing an update next week on what's happening here in Oregon.
I just wanted to mention that New York State hired an outside consulting firm to help us navigate this, and that FAQ is also up on NISAR.com.
One other thing that the Oregon members might use, if your individual bank doesn't handle that, you might go to a lender that you have done business with, who is a bank who perhaps you've put commercial loans through or investment loans through, that would love to create a banking relationship with you. While the banks do earn a fee on this, I think they're looking for, and Jennifer said it, you know, quoting the governor, the pause. They're looking for what happens after the pause. So that would be the process I would recommend.
I want to ask you all a question unrelated to the loan programs. I want to get to how your members in your respective states, have you received, what is the overall comments from your members as saying, hey, you need to shut down open houses. You need to stop our members from going out, and you need to do something about it. How are you handling that? I mean, that was a abbreviated version, I'm sure, of what many of you have been hearing, but I'm curious what the response is in your respective states to those members who have real concerns about you all still engaging in business.
You know, in Chicago and Illinois, you know, I'll say, Jenny, that you know, this one of the greatest silver linings and positive stories throughout all this within our industry that I've seen, and I think I could see it nationwide as well, is that the banding together and working together as a community. There's so much compassion and empathy out there for each other, and a willingness to work together through this crazy time. And so while the messaging, when the first shelter in place came out in Illinois and real estate was deemed essential, of course there was like mass confusion of what does that mean? Does that mean business as usual or whatnot? And so setting those guidelines, and more importantly, having the Realtors members out there advocating, right? And saying, hey, here's what I'm doing. I'm not hosting open houses. It's not business as usual. We are doing everything virtually because we have a social responsibility right now to help flattening this curve and doing what we can. That influence has spread. And that's what we've seen here locally in Chicago, where, you know, the amount of people now that are, you know, wanting to, you know, show property when we're seeing that decline from the standpoint of not buyer activity, but people being safe, Realtors practicing in a safe way and leading with, can you send me video, virtual tour? What do you have virtually that we can still present this property to my buyer?
I would add, Tommy, I would add one thing that I'm just, I think, not amazed at, but you're always looking at certain things. The compassion between the members in each of our respective offices and what they can do in the community. You know, one of Vince Malta's pillars this year was community and rebuilding our communities. And if you think about how the brokers have worked together, whether it's getting food contributions to those in need, helping with some of the kids that don't get a meal because they weren't in school, and being there to volunteer, ordering meals for the healthcare workers who, you know, have gone above and beyond what I think anybody could ever have imagined would be just a situation that you risk your life every time somebody walks into an emergency room. And then the other thing we've asked our agents, and I think this is a great lesson, we call it +1. After you take care of yourself and your family, go find one person that might need you. And I'll give you an example. Jersey City is a growing city, probably about 300,000 people. One of our agents lives in a nice building and there's about 10 homes in a row. She went and left a note underneath her next door neighbor's door because she didn't have a phone number. Said, I'm going to the grocery store tomorrow. Do you need anything? And left her phone number. That woman called her and said, you're a lifesaver. I don't drive. My health won't let me get out. My daughter can't come and visit me because she's at a stay-at-home situation with kids. And this, agent of ours who lived next door ended up buying about $40 worth of groceries, wouldn't take the money from the woman next door, all because we tried to push the agents to a +1. 700 agents, maybe we can affect 700 other people. And if everybody did that, maybe we just make a difference. So the compassion in our members and just people in general is really something that I know motivates me, and I think motivates anybody that when you put other people first, that's the gratitude and the satisfaction of being who we are. So that's something I think we all can make a difference, and all the Oregon members don't take for granted that the person next door is okay.
Good point.
That's a great way to look at it, Charlie. I think, and remembering who the people that might fall through the cracks might be in your society, whether it be, I think Hard and Tommy's kids, as we were getting the call going earlier today, his kids are running, jumping on his lap and doing somersaults. And I'm sure a lot of us, as we're working from home, have that same situation like I do. But I think right now of the single parents that maybe have 2 or 3 kids, and typically they'd have health care and they're trying to work to maintain their job and trying to keep their kids in check, or an elderly person or someone with a health thing, those little differences. And realtors are the best at that kind of thing.
And just keep in mind, there's many sick realtors across the country. So keep them in your thoughts. And a number of realtors have passed, unfortunately, through this COVID-19. So just keep all of them in your thoughts. That this virus just doesn't choose anybody, it chooses everyone. So
Lori's heard a lot of stories of realtors in Oregon, and we've had some really inspiring things happening here. And I know, Lori, you've been really impressed and proud of our members here in Oregon.
Yeah, I've been super proud, not just of our members, but I always like to brag on our staff when I get a chance to do that, because as in many areas, our staff has really stepped up. And I really want to encourage anybody who has the opportunity to visit our Oregon Realtors website. It's one of the things of which I'm most proud here at OAR, dedicated to helping our members and clients navigate their way through this crisis. There's amazing publications and documents there to inform not just our members, but our buyers and sellers in a really real, understandable, relatable fashion. And there's just several guidelines and tips and instructions on staying compliant and staying safe. So I'd really encourage you all to take a look at that. It's very impressive. Very proud of you.
Yeah, it's been difficult at the state association. I'm sure a lot of my counterparts in your states would say the same thing, because there are a lot of members that don't think real estate should be deemed essential. You should be staying home. And our core mission is your business advocate. So we are doing everything we can to support you and keep you in business while maintaining that safety first. And I think you can do both. So it's a difficult, it's been tricky navigation, but we're finding our way okay. And surprisingly, our governor has been, as Lori said, much more reasonable than we would have ever anticipated. So,
but keep in mind, Jenny, you have 9 states that don't even have stay-at-home mandates at this point. That I don't want to say it's life as usual, but they don't see the pandemic crisis potentially as bad as many of the other states have suffered already. So you still have a number of states that, for whatever reason, because to me, the only solution from the little bit of knowledge that I think we all have is the social distancing. And if 9 states don't think it's that important, I don't want to say that important, but certainly haven't mandated it, you wonder where this terrible virus can still go.
So we have a couple of questions in the chat box I want to address. One independent realtor not on payroll indicated she printed out the PPP application, completed it. It's confusing. Can I submit my application through SBA, or do I find a bank that's eligible? I can tell you, and again, for those of us who have waded through it, I've done it. Tommy took his company through it, et cetera. It is a pain. No matter how good you are at all this technical stuff, it is tricky. The SBA on their website does have a link to the banks that are providing this coverage. So if you dig down deep enough, you can type in your zip code and it will tell you banks that are providing that service. If you can stay tuned to, like Jenny said, to the Bankers Association president, chairman, who's coming on, CEO, who's coming on next week. We should be able to get some answers there. Feel free to ask us any questions. You can email us at info@OregonRealtors.org. I know that's not what that's set up for, but we're going to make it set up. If you have any questions and we can help in any way, we would like to do that. Bill?
I'm just thinking that for an individual agent, they might be better going to the SBA website and applying for an EIDL grant rather than waiting through the PPP. The second level, and Charlie can probably speak to it better than I, but the second level of PPP that may be open to individual practitioners hasn't happened yet. They're still waiting through the business ones. So if you need, while I know Tommy said that he had received a PPP, I would go apply. The EIDL is a really simple online application. It'll take you 10 minutes and you're done, and you get in that line because it's an easier line. It's a big line, but it's an easier line to get through. And I did want to say one other thing regarding being essential and non-essential. So we're non-essential. Nobody should be out. I get requests every day from agents that want to know if they can show a property. Can I open the door? I mean, they've got every workaround in the world. And I think to your point and to Charlie's point, I would rather have direction I would rather be essential and have direction that says, this is all you can do and this is how you must do it or face severe consequences, than have people who I think see themselves as like the resistance, going out and trying to circumvent the rules, even in a total lockdown. As Charlie said, we're in a very dense marketplace. There's people are on top of each other, and Jennifer's as well in New York. We need to be careful, but we need direction on that. And I think OAR is doing a great job too.
Hey, Jen, I want to know, have any fines actually been implemented and collected yet? It's going to be quite revenue, huh?
I don't know about that. I have heard that they're calling up, trying to set up showings, and if you show up, that you will get fined. Obviously, our state is going to have a trouble with money, and how better to collect funds than that. I will say, I always joke all the time that there's two New Yorks, there's downstate and there's upstate. I will say that we are completely unified in this, and that this has gotten to the point where it is so serious here that people just want to stay home. And I've never seen so many food pictures on Facebook in my life. And it's kind of funny because you don't see selfies on there anymore. But I think people are really bonding over, we're all in this together, and who are you staying home for? And it's just, it's upstate and downstate. I mean, we have 1,000 cases in my county, and we did lose a realtor locally a couple of days ago, and he got it from a closing a week before the pause even started, and he didn't show any symptoms. So it's just, you don't know who has it. And I think people really take that to heart, because a lot of people didn't show symptoms, and you just can't be too safe because you don't know who has it and who doesn't.
I think one of the other things too, Jen, just in terms of what's going on in the showings in the metropolitan area, and Bill touched on it, essential or non-essential doesn't replace safety. Right. Because agents as we all know, some live closing to closing. I mean, that's just the reality of our business in a lot of cases. So the desperation to show a property and try and put something under contract sometimes replaces the safety of not just yourself here, but others. And that's really the thing, that when you see empty streets, you know, that to me is a sign of people understanding how you affect other people. The problem is when an agent wants to go show, even if they opened the door and unlocked it, did they have a glove on or gloves on? You know, what was the safety to make the property available for showing? Because the virus lives longer in different spots. You know, I'm going to give you all a crazy example, and think about this. Somebody allowed a showing because they bought a property and need to sell their property. They can't carry two properties for a long time. And it's just a husband and wife that live in the house. It's a small 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch. When you show a property, you should never touch anybody's possessions anyway. Well, a vase was moved. Maybe it's a vase in other parts of the country, but in New Jersey, it's a vase. The vase was moved. The seller got home and called their realtor and said, who was in my house? What else did they touch? The vase was moved about a foot away from where it was. So again, did they have gloves on? What did they touch? This woman was all upset because she moved it back without gloves, you know, impulse to move something. And now all of a sudden you start to worry for 14 days. Did I do something I shouldn't have done? So nothing replaces safety. If nothing else, essential, non-essential, you have to be safe. You know, this is life and death. This is something none of us have ever experienced before. So just keep in mind, you know, as Bill said, you have to practice good real estate.
Yeah. Well, with only a few more minutes left, I want to ask you all to tell us, aside from implementing virtual showings and that component, what is the one thing you're doing differently in your business so that you can keep it moving forward, so that when this is over, which this too shall pass, you're ready to keep moving forward and pick up just like where you left off? What's the one thing you're doing?
I think for me, communication is key. And I'll admit, it's easy to just, you know, drop a quick note in the mail. I'm finding myself calling more often, and, you know, I'm going to be in your neighborhood. Do you need anything? I think it's just staying connected and giving that message. This too shall pass, and I'm here for you until it does. I think we'll be business as usual more quickly than we think. But I think just staying connected in that way, by whatever means you have, that's what's important. That's what's going to get us through this.
Tommy, what do you think you'll do differently or already doing differently?
Yeah, great question. So here's, and this might sound weird, but I'm not doing anything differently, meaning the same activities I've done in the past, I'm still continuing to do, but just tweaking them for a different result. Meaning this, you know, my business has always been, for the last 14 years, 89 to 91% referral based, right? So our database is where we pour into and love into. So right now we're continuing to do that and lead generating and checking in on people. Well, the difference is we're not having conversations about real estate right now. We're just checking in and seeing how people are doing, right? How are you? What's going on? What can we support with, right? Figuring out ways to make deposits into the show our value still, and know that, you know, we're here for you. And that's been huge. I've been having great conversations because people want to pick up the phone now because they have nothing better to do and they want to speak. The second thing is, right, setting yourself up for success. For me, I'm not the type of person, I can't work from home. Like, my house is my sanctuary. I separate work from as soon as I walk in the threshold. So to set myself up for success now that we've had to work from home and we're going to continue to work from home for the foreseeable future, right? Time blocking is something that's always been important in my regular routine. So that's been the same. Where I've adjusted is now I know I have to win my day before noon. right? I have to win my day in the morning. I have to make sure and prioritize what's the one important thing I need to get done where I know by the end of the day, that's the only thing I did. It's still a victory. Today was a great day, because the truth of the matter is my wife works too, right? And so come lunchtime, if I need to put on the professor or the teacher hat, not professor, I don't want to give myself that much credit at the homeschooling.
Teacher's aide, maybe.
And be a caretaker for the kids, give my wife, tap her out so she can jump on Zoom calls. I need to know that my afternoon might not be there for me, so I have to win the day in the morning. So those are the two things that I'm still doing, but just tweaking my results for.
That's awesome. Bill?
I gotta go with Laurie. We're communicating intentionally and frequently, more frequently than we had in the past, using, I think everybody will get over their video fear at the end of the pause, but we're holding our managers and partners are holding training events almost every day of the week on our tech stack, on, working through the process, on working from home. And because they're doing it using video meetings, they're doing them company-wide. So they're getting better concentration that way. In terms of communicating with peers, I've been reaching out to smaller companies near me just to check in with the brokers. Are you guys okay? Are you aware of these programs? Is there any resource that our company has that you could use? Because we'd be happy to do that. We want to, you're our colleagues. We want you to get through this. We want you to get through it healthy. Are you okay? Is everyone safe at home? And also with consumers, the one thing I would ask everybody to be careful of is tossing off that, I hope you're safe and healthy. I get texts from random people that want to buy properties that I own in our marketplace. You get them all the time. Now the first sentence says, I hope you and your family are safe and healthy. And I look at it and go, no, you don't. You don't know me. I mean, other than in the way we want everyone in the world to be safe and healthy. So don't be disingenuous. Be genuine when you reach out to people, and think about not just what you say, but what they hear. And I love, Tommy, what you said about you have to win your day in the morning. That I'm going to steal that and use that with my people over the next week. But I will give you full credit for having had it ripped.
Send me one of those plaques behind you and we'll call it even.
Okay, not a problem. I'll get you a plaque. I got you. But that's it, just over communicating, but over communicating in an intentional and thoughtful manner.
Bill, it's funny that what you just said, or Tommy said, win the day in the morning. I know a corporate executive who once told me, never make a decision that's going to change the course of your company after 2 p.m.
Nice.
Because they know your thought process has been affected by 7 or 8 hours of day-to-day activities that you don't think as clearly. And then the one thing I would tell you that we've done more than anything else in our company is we've set up twice a week seminars where we've had over 250 of our agents listen to speakers from around the country, because you always tell people, well, it's not market to market that's different. It's what do you do better than somebody else to do more business? And we're also very similar to Tommy. Our company's probably 80% of business is through personal referral, because we have a lot of agents that are experienced and been in the business for a while. It's what have you done in the past? Don't change who you are. Don't take advantage of this pandemic to be somebody else. Be who you are, be true to everything that you've done. And we've learned as a company that we can offer more educational programs through a Zoom conference than having to rent out a place for $20,000 to feed 600 agents, where 300 come anyway. Now we're getting 250 to a conference, and we're getting more positive feedback because it's 1 hour. They can sit at their computer and listen, do something else and multitask, which they do in person anyway. They're on their cell. You're not on your cell because you're staring at a screen trying to listen. So it's a lot different in the way you do business, but don't change who you are.
Good advice.
That is awesome. Jen, what are you thinking?
So two things. The biggest thing that I did personally for my own mental health was I actually have an old school calendar with all my appointments written out. I have to see it visually. I have it on my phone, but I just like the crossing things off as they're done. And I was getting really fatigued looking at my calendar, crossing off things that I couldn't go to, appointments that never took place, travel that I was excited for that could not happen. And I said, wow, I really need a new calendar. So I ordered myself a new calendar. It came on April 1st, and it was a blank slate. So I've been filling that with all the Zooms I've been doing, who I've been talking to, and just looking at that, it's such a much more positive experience than looking at all the missed opportunities and things I was missing. So that definitely changed my outlook. Along with everyone else, my company does a Zoom every day at noon, and we're doing the Miracle Morning. So every day we get on and we talk about, did we exercise? If not, what are we going to do for exercise? Because it's so important just to take a minute, do something, walk, yoga, whatever it is, and also what we're thankful for. Because as difficult as this is, there is something that we're all thankful for every day. And I think just giving everyone the opportunity to go around and say what they're thankful for, it kind of makes them pick something. And then, you know, having to think, well, what am I actually really thankful for? Has a profound effect on people when they actually say, you know what, I'm happy that no one in my house has COVID today. So those were the two things that we've done.
Love it. That was great. You guys were fabulous today. It was so nice. We're thrilled you joined us and took time out of your morning since you have a limited time to focus. It's got to be before noon. Thank you. Although some of you, I guess we caught you after noon your time, but thank you. And Bill, I do hope your family is healthy and safe, and I really mean that.
I know that. And to you as well, Andrew, and to everyone on this.
To everybody,
Yeah.
safe and stay healthy.
Yeah.
Thank you all for thank you for joining us, and keep fighting the good fight where you are, and I love that, Charlie, you're +1. Let's all go find +1 as a result of this call.
Maybe in a couple of weeks we can do a follow-up. What's gone on in the past 2 weeks, where your states are, what's happening. It'd be good to touch base.
Would love to do it.
Thank you.
All
See
right.
you all soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
So as we wrap this up, Jenny, that was awesome. Kind of exactly what, you know, we have so many great people in the realtor world and some great friends, and it's, you know, it's been tough times. I mean, you hear from Jen and those numbers there, and Charlie, and, you know, our hearts are out to all the realtors and non-realtors who are being affected by this, but it's also really inspiring to hear how positive people are staying.
That's what I took away from today. And yet you're not losing sight of that. You still have business. You still can conduct business. You just have to be creative. And it was really nice to hear even from Jen and Charlie, and hopefully Bill's market won't be in as bad of state as those two states, but they're still positive.
Yeah.
I love Jen's, I'm an old school address book too, or workbook.
Yes, you are.
We get a glance, can't help but I like it. I love seeing it, but I love that idea.
Yeah, he will not be manning the tech helpline anytime soon.
Yeah,
but
I know.
I do know that you and Lori have been working so hard. So thank you both and all of the staff for kind of giving us so many resources. You know, I've heard from our locals and from a lot of brokers, it's just kept coming fast and furious. I know you haven't slept much. I haven't either. Lori hasn't either, but we want to make sure. One thing that we're going to try to do is, as a result of a lot of the comments that you've seen here, I'm going to try to see if we can work with Jenny to get a list of the local banks in the state of Oregon that are providing any sort of SBA assistance, and we'll try to make that available on our website. Of course, a lot of your big local banks are, but they're also inundated with millions in requests. You heard 40,000 requests in the first week, and there's some other smaller banks and some banks you may not have thought of. So we'll try to make that there. And as they alluded to, some of the self-employment protections are going to come in that second wave once they sort through the payroll type of folks.
Yeah, we'll keep you all posted as quickly as we learn the information. It's been rapid fire for sure.
So stay tuned. Next Friday at the same time, we've got a great slate for you for the next few Fridays as we're continuing to do this. We've got some economists that we're going to be talking to. We've got an appraiser and lender that we're going to be talking to as far as how that affects them. We're going to be talking potentially to the real estate commissioner here in the state of Oregon, how what they're seeing as far as licensing numbers. Has this had any effect? And we'll maybe have some special guests for you as well. So
Yes.
if there's anything you need, please reach out to us at info@OregonRealtors.org. We're always available to you. And thank you guys for being so great beacons of light in the communities that you all serve.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.